It's my privilege to introduce you all to Ranald Lloyd Williams, who is the founder of a full-service film and video production company.
For a lot of businesses, they just need to understand that video marketing in particular is not going anywhere, and that's the most digestible advertising marketing content in the entire world. I'm doing what I love for a living, which not a lot of people can say, and I feel very fortunate and blessed that I've kind of found that at such an early age. My grandfather had an old VCR recorder camera, and I just started picking it up and started playing with it, and just immediately fell in love with the process. I just kind of started my business as a side hustle, and then quite quickly, after a year, went full time with it to a company called Filmmakers Films. Again, everything that we already do, but it's more of a brand, and it's more along the lines of what I want to, again, give to the world. It's feel-good content. It's working with organizations and businesses who are doing stuff for positive change and bring a spotlight to them. Bring a bunch of people to come together to bring an idea to life is actually something that's quite special. I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing people who are really just in their own right passionate about what they do, but they have no idea how to communicate it on an online platform or through a meaningful piece of content. How did you get here? And it's so important to keep connecting with that community. Otherwise, you'll lose yourself. No matter if it's starting a business or starting a new hobby or whatever it may be, you just got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. The first time I knew that film production was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life was when...
In this episode, it's my privilege to introduce you all to Ranald Lloyd Williams, who is the founder of RLW Film, a full-service film and video production company based in Chichester, West Sussex. RLW Film is a community of modern-day storytellers, and through genuine storytelling, they provide a true voice for passionate organisations. Over the course of this episode, we will get to know more about Ranald and RLW Film. His work is so clever and engaging and always comes from a place of such authenticity. I'm grateful that he's a part of my community and my kind of people, and I know he will be your kind of person too. So welcome to the podcast, Ranald Lloyd Williams.
There you go. What an intro. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're so welcome. A very deserving intro. How are you? How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Can't complain too much. Healthy and everything business-wise is going well. So yeah, no complaints. All good, thank you. And how about yourself?
I'm good. I'm well. I'm so glad to connect with you. It's been a while since we've been able to see each other, certainly in person. So at least over the interweb, we can somewhat see each other face to face.
Most definitely.
Technology these days. I like to start the podcast by giving the audience a little insight as to how we crossed paths. So where did we meet, Ranald?
So the one and only place, I think all of our second homes, it's Canyon Creek Summer Camp in Los Angeles, California. And that was back in 2015, I want to say.
Exactly that, yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years now.
And yeah, so we were both camp counsellors. It's amazing because we're both from the UK, which isn't huge in itself. And to find someone who doesn't live too far away from you, all the way in the Angeles forest, which is a very remote place, is pretty amazing. What I love about camp as well is how there seems to be a link. So many people there seem to have a link with someone else of how they know them, and no one's too far away from each other.
And that's it. And I think with camp as well, in particular, that no matter what camp you go to, we were quite lucky in the position of the camp that we went to in Los Angeles, but everyone's camp experiences and the feeling of camp is very similar, even if you went to one on the East Coast or the West Coast, middle of America. And I think, again, from a community aspect, even if we didn't know each other at the same camp, I know we bumped into each other on the street, and I found out you went to camp, we'll probably have very similar, fun, exciting experiences, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so novel, I think, as well for people from the UK, because certainly for me, like, I didn't get to go to camp when I was younger. It certainly isn't the level that it is in America.
No, not at all. I mean, I completely agree with you. That is the one thing I wish from experiencing it and working with the kids over there. If I had something like that when I was younger, it would be amazing. But I guess we just had the tennis activity week equivalent to activity weeks. But these guys have full-on summer camps down the lakes on the jet skis, tubing, wakeboarding, everything on a bigger scale. Americans like to do it bigger. So, yeah, it's an amazing, amazing place.
Absolutely. And I was 22 when I first went. Gosh, that seems like a lifetime ago now. But I felt like a big kid. It was like all of a sudden getting to experience camp as a 22-year-old was amazing.
Yeah.
So before we learn a little more about RLW Film, it'd be wonderful for the community to get to learn more about you as a person. So where have you grown and flown? Where did you grow up, or where was your hometown, and where would you consider home now?
Yeah, most definitely. So I was born in Scotland, so hence my name, Ranald. My mum's Scottish and last name is Lloyd Williams. So my father is Welsh, but I grew up in Perth until the age of 7. And then my dad's job got moved down to the south coast to Portsmouth. My dad was sick of the cold in Scotland, so moved down south. And lived in Chichester ever since. Went to university in Staffordshire. Then every single summer, where myself and Meg met, went to usually in California. So a bit here, there, and everywhere. But I would consider Chichester my home. I would consider America my home. You know, anywhere I want to plant my feet, I feel like home. As long as I'm around the community of people that I love, then that's home to me.
Yeah, I love that. And that's something I've learned as I've grown older, that home to me is very much, instead of a place, the people I'm with. And you learn something new every day. I had no idea you grew up in Scotland. That's where you were born. I had no idea.
Well, a lot of people think I'm from Australia for some odd reason. I don't know why, especially all the kids in America thought I was from Australia, but no, completely, definitely not. Scotland, where I was born, Perth, Kinross.
Yeah, I got that as well. So I don't know whether Americans, I find the English and Australian accent very similar.
Yeah, especially the kids over there, they probably can't tell the difference, can they?
No, it was very funny. Like I dropped some kids off to their parents at the end of the 2 weeks that we had them, and quite often the parents would be like, "Oh, are you missing Australia?" It's like,
I've never been.
Not particularly.
Right, yeah.
I'd like to go. So something about the English accent, I guess. So where in that journey from Scotland to Chichester and lots of places in between, where in between did you start to develop your passion for film and video production? And was that always your passion?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I kind of got the probably the most stereotypical story you feel when people ask you about film production. So when I was 10, my grandfather had an old VCR recorder camera. And I just started picking it up and started playing with it, and just immediately fell in love with the process of creating films. And as I was hitting the age of 14, 15, YouTube just started becoming a thing. Now, not to say to go back and look at my old YouTube videos, because
we won't put that in the show notes.
But the first time I knew that film production was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life was when I went and created a film with a couple of my friends. Again, came up with like a mini storyboard of what we wanted to create, and it was just about this one person hunting another person. Very stereotypical sort of young person film. And when we shot the film, it was an amazing time. And then when I realized I wanted to do it for the rest of my life was essentially when I started editing the film, maybe like 6 o'clock at night. So just had my dinner and then started editing the film. And I didn't stop finishing it until the sun came up. I didn't realize the sun came up, and it was all of a sudden 7 a.m. the next morning. And I'd gone through the whole night learning this new program I was working on, and then kind of creating the film and put it together. By no means is it the next Steven Spielberg film. But at that point, I just enjoyed the process of putting it all together. And I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And funnily enough, my year group was the year for English universities that they changed from £3,000 a year to £9,000 a year. I was like, well, we're going to do this and spend £9,000 a year in education, then I'm going to do something that I love and enjoy. So then went on to do film production at Staffordshire University, did that for 3 years. And then coming out of that was the start of social media. I feel like that was the real start where social media really became a thing, where Facebook was really kicking off and Instagram just came out. And I just kind of started my business as a side hustle. And then quite quickly, after a year, went full time with it. And, 5 years later, I'm still here. So I must be doing something right. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like creating films that mean a lot to a lot of people, and getting the feedback from that, that's what drives me to keep going with what I'm doing. And growing the business, mean so many new people around the world. It's been so, I can't really see myself doing anything else right now. And I mean, that's been that same sort of mentality for the past 15 years or so. So it's, that's how I started and kind of where I'm at right now.
Yes. I love that. And certainly from seeing your work, I can assure you, you definitely are on the right path and doing it.
Hopefully not giving me false lies.
No, genuinely. Your work's incredible. So I'm excited to talk about that in a little bit more depth. And as someone not from a video production background, you said part of what you fell in love with film is the process. So what does video and film production involve, and what is the typical process once you've received an inquiry from a potential client, say?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, because a lot of people, I would say vast majority of people we work with have never done it before, which I think is actually a really good position to be in, because you're in a really cool position to really leverage, whether it's your business, your organization, your personality, your own brand, whatever it may be. And I find that journey really exciting, because I love taking people on it. So we kind of break it into 4 different sections. So from the first time when somebody inquires, it's either via email, via call, word of mouth, whatever interaction, people in the street, whatever it may be. We then have like a pre-production meeting, which is just kind of getting to know the client and trying to really figure out their aims and their goals, and how we can use what we offer as a unique video production service to them, and how to harness their own community and to really build a product, a campaign, whatever it may be, to really engage the audience and ultimately, obviously, get them results. And once they kind of agree to that, we kind of put a proposal together and kind of showcase a bunch of different elements and ideas that we think will work really well for the business or their brand. And once one of those hopefully gets signed off, we then head into like the pre-production, which is where we really start to kind of flesh out that individual concept or couple concepts and ideas for the client. We have a pre-production meeting, which is almost like a discovery session, where we kind of really just kind of break everything down and try and really properly flesh out what we're trying to achieve and how we can make use of their initial budget to the most maximum potential to give them the most value, because that's what we're all about. And that's down to filling out questionnaires, to storyboarding. And then once we kind of got that storyboard and the idea and the final concept kind of signed off and everyone's agreed upon that, we head into the production stage, which is obviously the fun part for a lot of people, whether you're new to video production or you're not new to video production. You know, having a bunch of people to come together to bring an idea to life is actually something that's quite special. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing people who are really just in their own right passionate about what they do, but they have no idea how to communicate it on an online platform or through a meaningful piece of content. And to be able to do that is something really special. And obviously we can bring all the fancy stuff in, you know, the big cameras, the drones, everything you want, which technology is disadvantaged so quickly. So we're always reinvesting into the business, always trying to think ahead of ourselves, to the point where we're offering like FPV drone piloting, where our guys put on goggles and they go into the matrix and they're flying these tiny little drones around race cars and then different settings and surroundings. So we're really just trying to like push the boundary for creativity in the production side. And then the post-production, so that's where we kind of put all the pieces together. And this is actually what I got my first class degree in, was in digital film and post-production technology. So actually, again, relating back to that initial story of why I started at 6 o'clock one night and went through to 7 a.m. because I just like absolutely just loved putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can really hone down and get the real special moments in a film and a narrative and documentary, a promotional brand, for whatever it may be. This is your opportunity to kind of put your own personal touch onto it. We're all about humanizing businesses, so putting people at the forefront of our products. And it's amazing, because even just, you know, shooting hours and hours and hours of content to boil it down to whether it's like a 1 to 2 minute film or a short documentary, whatever it may be, it's our opportunity to really bring that piece to life. And once we've obviously done that, hopefully the client will be happy with that. And if there's any revisions that need to be done, then we do that. And then the best part is that we get to put that out to the world and get to see the reaction, and whether it's in person, whether it's online, to hundreds of thousands of people, that's really great because, we're really proud of what we do. I think that's really important to put across. And because it comes from, for me, it's changed from a passion into a business. And actually, every single product we create is an opportunity to grow. So any feedback that's obviously welcome, but positive, negative, whatever it may be, it's always great to see an audience reaction. And I'm always a big believer in, even if I have to drive 200 plus miles to go showcase the product to a client, to showcase them the final piece, I will do that because I think showing them in their own place of comfort, not over an email saying, here's a YouTube link, send me the invoice sort of thing. That's not what we're about. It's all about that, again, growing that relationship with the client or whoever it may be and getting their in-person reaction. I'm really kind of going with that and seeing is really special to see, like, especially when people cry. That sounds so weird, but being in experiences, working with businesses, like really small businesses to big global businesses, to actually see the fruits of your labor, I guess, kind of all come together. Because a lot of people, again, people who've never done it before, we guide them through the cycle for the pre-productions. So putting some digital concepts together, that's great. And then the production, but even still after that, they're kind of like, oh, we don't know what it's going to look like. And to actually put it all together and show them and then get that immediate reaction is it's kind of why I do what I do, I guess. It's a real driver for me because then I can build that relationship even more with the client. They can see the effort that we're putting in to make sure that's the right product for them. And again, it's all about value for me. So essentially, in kind of a short way, that is like the production process for someone who's new or existing. That's how we go about things. And we're all about, again, authenticity and really pushing the boundaries for creativity in the productions that we create for our clients and everyone in between, really.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you took us through the process so beautifully as well. And generally, something that I love about your work is I think so often when brands are trying to advertise their products, it's very much the product at the forefront, kind of in your face, whereas your work is so clever in that, yes, you are getting the product and its message across, but the important driver of that is the people behind it. Because how can you believe in the product if you don't believe in the product, the people that are making it?
100%.
And it's so lovely in your work and so authentic to actually get to meet those people. It makes the product itself seem more real. You can learn where that came from. And again, passion, really. And I love that you touched on passion. That's something that's clear in your work. It's clear from the communities that you work with and the brand that they're bringing forward. And it's the reason I wanted to start this podcast, because I believe that you'll never see someone happier than when they're talking about something they're passionate about, and it really does create such beautiful content. So thank you for sharing that. And from that, so your passion very much seems to be visual storytelling. What does that mean to you, and why do you think it's such an important contribution to the world?
Well, for me, for what I do, obviously I've evolved as an individual over the years, naturally, as you grow up, and so is my work. And I get a lot of pride and again, value too from, communicating with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds and be able to showcase and put a spotlight on, amazing organizations and communities and businesses around the world that are doing something for positive change. And if I can help that through, bringing their business or brand or individuals to life through film, then I'm contributing to that positive change in my own way. So showcasing an organization who's doing something amazing, but bringing it to a bigger scale, maybe even one that they never thought they could before. So Canyon Creek, as you know, that's where we both met, and that's something that's both very, very special to our hearts, to be able to spend every summer for the past 5-6 years there, growing as an individual, meeting new people, lifelong friends, and people that I call my family. But to be able to showcase that organization, is almost, again, my way of giving back for what they've given to me. And by doing that through the way that we do our storytelling pieces, I think that's really unique. And ultimately, that joyous feeling that I get again from people at Canyon Creek and other organizations that I work with around the world, then I'm winning. In my head, I'm on that winning streak. Like I'm not, I'm content and happy in my life that I'm contributing to the world in that way, I guess, by putting a spotlight on amazing organizations that really, really need it and really deserve it. I think it's probably the way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about Canyon Creek, which is obviously a place that we love. And you've done such incredible work with them and collaborated and made footage. It always leaves me in awe. I cry every time I see a Canyon Creek video from you because it's such a special place to both of us. And it's a place that I often don't know how to put into words for what it's done for me. And it's something you really have to experience. And it's a shame not everyone has been able to experience that. I hope they could. But through your work, somehow you're able to put into, create this art that kind of encapsulates that experience and what's so special about Canyon Creek in a way that I wouldn't be able to do with words. And one of my favorite moments actually at camp is one of the first videos you'd made for Canyon Creek. And we'd set up the big projector in the food hall and everyone was going to watch it and they played it. And I remember you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was just watching this film in awe. And then when the film finished, the hall just erupted with just joy and gratitude for this piece of art that you'd managed to make that encapsulated a place that we care so much about. And I just wanted to share that because that was a moment of such pure joy and just gratitude to you for what you made. How was that like for you to actually experience that for your own art?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting that you brought up. No, thank you for that. That's really kind of you to say. I mean, it's really, really interesting that you brought that up because when that moment happened, for me, I was at a point in my business where I was a bit like, do I do this full time? And at that point, I was working, trying to grow the business on the side and also working a part-time job. So I was actually only at camp that summer for 2 weeks. And then after we showed that film and everyone started chanting my name, which was quite like a surreal experience because all the attention's on you when actually, I'm obviously doing a lot of work behind the camera. I'm not a crazy loud person in comparison to a lot of people at camp, but that works. Everyone's their own individual and they have their own place there. Yeah,
so, and not 300 people calling your name is probably not a typical experience day to day for people.
I almost didn't know what to do myself. It's kind of like, oh God. So I actually filmed it. I remember filming and I've got that footage, which is really, really cool. But yeah, for me, that moment really did a lot for me. It just gave me that immediate boost of confidence and knowing that if 500 people in this hall think I'm doing the right thing, then I'm going to be all right and I should do it. And then I had my flight scheduled for 2 days later after that. So as soon as I got on that flight, I knew that, okay, I've got to do a couple of things. So flew back home. And the next day I was working my part-time job at a gym. I was there at 5 a.m. in the morning opening up. And I've just gone from Los Angeles, California to like 500 people who are appreciating me, loving me, coming up to me, crying to me that to have like the owners of the camp who've obviously they built this foundation.
It's their passion,
their passion I loved, and to leave them speechless and them to come up crying to me to say thank you so much. I'm just like, for me, for them, I kind of feel like just getting started. That I think that's quite exciting. But then I came back and I said, going from such an overload of overwhelming feeling of love from a lot of people to working at a place where I wasn't as happy as I could be. I left. I ended up handing in my notice, and then a week later I flew back to America to come back to camp. So I was like, I just need to be back in this element of positivity and an area that really just kind of gave a lot to me. And whenever I'm having a downtime with the business, which naturally it always happens, there's hurdles that you have to overcome. I always kind of keep going back to that moment that you just mentioned and think that, again, we are doing the right thing, 500 people in that room think you're doing the right thing, and I can physically see it, and our work gets hundreds of thousands of views online, then, essentially that amount of people online are giving that same feeling to me, but just in a different way because it's virtual. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's just kind of like whenever I feel down or, work's not going the way I want it to, I've always got that just reminder in my head that I'm doing it for the right reasons. And I've got people that are always going to support me. And I'm loved in a place which is, people come from all around the world to go to different summer camps. People come all around the world to Canyon Creek. And again, it's wherever I go, I always know that people understand where I've come from. And actually, camps change, a lot of people's lives, which is amazing to see. And it's definitely like a huge catalyst for me for what I'm doing right now and will continue to do going forward because of that one moment, which is quite nuts, really.
Yeah, life-changing. And I think it shows like the power of surrounding yourself with people that share an equal passion to you or have that positivity, and gives you that permission to be yourself, and it kind of makes your passion even greater, I guess.
Very much so. Yeah, no, again, as I mentioned before, I'm doing what I love for a living, which not a lot of people can say, and I feel very fortunate and blessed that I've kind of found that at such an early age. But I know that if it wasn't for the hundreds and thousands of hours of working on my craft in the quiet times when people don't realize you're doing it and just really kind of putting the work in, which is very, stereotypical motivational stuff, but it's true. Like, I've been doing it since I was 10. I wasn't like I wouldn't say I'm an overnight success at all right now. That I'm still growing and continue will to grow. But as I said, I'm lucky enough to found my passion at quite a young age, and I'm still doing it. So I think it's the case of like, it doesn't come easy, but if you keep searching for it, keep putting yourself in new experiences and, growing, like, I didn't know my first time I went to America to camp that would literally change the course of my entire life. They don't say that in the application form.
No, they didn't.
It's gonna happen to you quite quickly, and it's again putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and just growing as an individual and just really working hard at it. And for me, I wouldn't be here today without that. So I'm going to keep going with it, and I will continue to go with it. But knowing that I'm always doing it for the right reasons, and I always have to remind myself sometimes about that, because everyone can get into ruts with anything in life.
Yes.
So I always say to myself, with any work that we do with clients, if it's personal branding, whatever it may be, that I've got to be enjoying it. If I'm not enjoying it, then I've got to think something about it again, and rethink it. But I'm lucky enough again to I'm still enjoying it, so many years later, and I always will. I don't see myself stopping, really.
Yeah, we talked about surrounding ourselves with like-minded people, positive people. Did you have anyone that particularly inspired you growing up, whether that's in the production world, maybe even a leadership sense or values that align with yourself?
I think there's so many people. I think I wouldn't say there's one particular person I was like, they changed the course of my life. And I wouldn't be here without them. I think it's a combination of just building a community and finding like-minded people who are all about positivity and not negative, and all about positive reinforcement and bringing each other up, and a community sort of spirit. And I find that, again, I like to work with clients like that too. I feel I only want to work with people who are just great, good people. And it's such a simple requirement, just being a good person. But I found for me growing up, it's, I've got a great friendship group, got a great family, got, everything like that. But, it comes with finding the wrong people, I guess, along that journey, and that learning from that. And there's no one particular person, because ultimately a lot of people built me up and helped me throughout my career and just personal life, etc. So for me, it's just, you just gotta really hold on to those people, because you never know who's going to be dipping in and out of your life for whatever reason. Life is life at the end of the day. So I think always just finding time for me with everyone that's helped me throughout my journey to making sure that we're still always in contact on a continuous basis, even if it's once a month, if that's what comes to it, but always touching base with a lot of people. Because I think, especially nowadays, God, like so many people going through so many different things.
Yeah.
It's so important to just keep in touch. And I know for a lot of people who they may not have, and I think it's the great thing, a lot of people who have helped me for this journey may not have realized that they've actually helped me, which I think is really cool. Yes. But also for me to ensure that, at my deepest core, if I had like the worst week ever and nothing's gone my way, for one thing, I always make sure every single day I give an hour or two to myself to do whatever the heck I want, no matter how bad work's going or how good work is going. I need to be able to switch off this brain and just kind of like relax and just enjoy life and live for the moment a lot more, which when trying to grow a business, everyone's typical of not doing that, because like, the future, where I'm going to be here, what I'm going to do this, because society's kind of programmed in our head that we need to be here by a certain age, be doing that by a certain age. And I just don't think that's right. And then again, always with that community of people that have helped me and supported me and helped me grow that, I'm always, again, every weekend or every day, whenever I have that time to communicate and just kind of enjoy their company and enjoy our lives for what it is. And again, live in that moment a lot more rather than just, looking ahead to the future and kind of putting your blinders on and just tunnel visioning forward. So back to your original question, I don't think it's a one specific person. It's a combination of so many people I've met along my journey that has helped me grow and be where I am, I guess.
Absolutely. I think you're so right. And touching back before as well, what you'd said about when you played your first Canyon Creek video at the camp, and you still got the footage from that. I've always found video footage to be such a beautiful way of capturing a moment or a memory, and it feels almost like it gives you a chance to relive the moment again. When working with so many businesses, particularly ones that are local or family run, how important is that idea of legacy, I guess, and capturing that?
Oh, majorly important. I think for a lot of businesses now, I guess the world's so, saturated with the same sort of video content. Whether it's an e-commerce company, a product-based company, whatever company it is, it's all about sell. And that's why I hate, because I think at this moment in time where we're at the moment, it's there's so much volume of content out there that it's just the same thing, and it's kind of breaking through, those cracks to be able to. I think being authentic is the most important thing ever in any business, no matter you're trying to sell a product, trying to sell a service. I think, for me, you want to build a community within your own business. You want to, again, as you said, build a legacy, whether it's a small family-run business or a big global business. You like being transparent and honest is like the most important thing, because you may think you're getting away with it for the first 6 months, but that'll catch up to you. The world we live in now, so many people can find things on the internet. Like once it's out there, it's out there, and you can destroy your business overnight if you wanted to. But I think, again, creating content which is putting people at the forefront and is honest and transparent in the way that people can reinvest and just get to know people. I'll grow my business for me, like through my network and being honest and transparent myself, and always just being a good person no matter what the situation is. And I think by translating that to every single business that we work with, like every individual business has their own story, which they don't realize they probably have. But actually that's the most interesting part about it. Whether, they've grown a business from the mum's conservatory, now like a global business, like we want to know that story, because I think people want to know the heritage and where everything's come from, and just being, again, all back down to being authentic and transparent. I think for any business of any size, I think if you kind of keep to that authenticity from the very beginning, whether you're creating your own content or you're hiring a production crew to come in, I think is so important to start it on that right tone, because actually people will come back for more, and always will. I think that's so important, especially for a brand of business to grow nowadays. Is again, there's so much information online. If you're caught slipping up in any way, you're not true to yourself, then that'll be it. People will be done.
Yeah.
And I think, it's such like a harsh world now, but actually, it's a good opportunity for personalities to come out, people to, as I said, be authentic and be true to themselves. And I think that's why I try doing all my own personal content as well as for all the clients that we work with. So I think it's, all down to authenticity and keeping that strong message from the very beginning. I think it's so, so important.
Yeah, I agree. It's so important. And there seems to be so many parts that people don't even think about, like reputation of working with different businesses and from both shooting and editing. And do you think there are any misconceptions when it comes to video production and what people think that involves from either like an audience or client point of view? Do people underestimate how much is involved in that process?
Yeah, I think you're always going to be, with any business, any sector, you're always going to be in the battle that there's a lot of competition around. So everyone's always going to try and undercut you. Everyone's going to either be overpriced or underpriced. And ultimately, in my world, a lot of it does boil down to price. But actually, it's ultimately sticking to the value that you have in your business and knowing that the talent behind it is creating the right thing for your business. I think ultimately that's the most important thing. And essentially, just, the misconceptions with video is that it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of pounds to create a promotional film for my business. It can, of course it can. You can always scale things up, but I think, you can always, there's always something you can do. You don't need to hire a full production crew to a 10-man crew to create the product that you need. You just need the company or the individual who understands you and your business. And, I think ultimately that's worth its weight in gold, because if they feel part of your business and really invest in your business and they're not after just a paycheck. And I think that's the misconception with a lot of, and this almost ruins our industry a little bit. Also is a good thing, because it's so, because of Instagram, because of social media, everyone's trying to jump on this videography or filmmaking. It's like a lifestyle thing. So it's the quickest, fast track to be an influencer, to travel around the world, do all this fun stuff. And it can be, it most definitely can be. But actually it's all about, working with a company or an individual or whatever it may be that just gets your business. I don't think there should be a price tag on that. And I think, film shoots with a 2-3-man crew can cost £2,000, or it can cost £20,000, £100,000. I think it's, I think for a lot of businesses, they just need to understand that video marketing in particular is not going anywhere. And that's the most digestible advertising marketing content in the entire world. And that will never, ever change. Even with AI coming in, that's based off video marketing. Like it's video, it's visual entertainment or educational content. So, but again, it doesn't need to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. It can be, it ultimately is, if you want to grow your business, that's what you do need this as a marketing arm. But ultimately, I think it's really, if you're wanting to work with someone and grow your business on that side, you need to find the people that just get your business and really invest in it. And it's not, as I said before, just a paycheck. So again, like the misconception is that, it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands. Like it's not. It can, as I say, it can if you want to, but it doesn't need to be. But ultimately, I think it's the value of the individuals that work with you where I don't think it needs a price tag necessarily.
Yeah, beautifully said. And so your business has evolved over the years in different ways. And so you are the founder of RLW Film. That's the company you've created. When was this founded, and what do you hope that it will contribute to the world?
Yeah, well, it was never originally RLW Film. It was RLW Videography back in, when was it, 2014, when it first officially started as like the side business. It's now evolved to RLW Film because I felt like that was the right step for the business. It sounded more of the sort of stuff that we do. But actually, in a really interesting, I haven't even told you about this, we're transitioning the business again to a company called Feel Good Films, which is essentially, again, everything that we already do, but it's more of a brand, and it's more along the lines of what I want to, again, give to the world. It's feel-good content. It's working with organizations and businesses who are doing stuff for positive change and bring a spotlight to them. So all in all, I hope that with the new business transition and through RLW Film, which is already existing, that we are just going to continue to work with people within the experiential lifestyle and outdoor world to create amazing films, tell even more stories, ultimately that will bring impact, not only from like a financial return for business, but like a reputation side of business, and ultimately grow them and again bring a spotlight to amazing organizations who are doing the most amazing things, who may not think they have an amazing story, but we want to be able to bring that to life and just build awareness for these organizations around the world.
Yes, I'm so excited about this, Ranald. This is awesome. This is why I love having you in my community. That, Feel Good Films, that sounds perfect for all the work you've created so far. I definitely know that's certainly always at the heart of what you do, and the brands that you choose to work with. And I can just see with that name at the forefront, that's gonna create even better content moving forward. So that's so exciting. I did not know about that.
No, it's coming soon, hopefully a month or two away. But it's ultimately, and getting the catalyst from camp is like that feeling which, you know, all those people gave me, that community that we built, made me feel good. So why can't we just, that's what I want to again translate to every organization that we work with. I want them to have the feeling that I had. So by making it Feel Good Films is giving it more of a statement as a business of like, this is what we're about. And again, working in the experiential lifestyle and outdoor world is all my passions combined into one. So like, this is why I'm going for it with that and just evolving RLW Film to this new medium.
Yes. Goosebumps, all of those positive energy. I'm so happy about this. So I believe we've known each other for over 5 years now, I guess, 'cause it's gone past the summer. And it's been amazing to see your community grow over the years. You have such a growing portfolio as well of the businesses you've worked with, and each business you collaborate with is trying to build their own communities and support network. What does that community mean to you, and how has RLW Film and its community changed as the company's evolved?
No, it means everything to me. I mean, ultimately, without the community, I wouldn't be here. Without what, you know, the work and how we transitioned and grown over the years is through word of mouth. And ultimately, without the word of mouth, I wouldn't be sitting here still doing this. So it means absolutely everything to me. And I know for other businesses and talking to a lot of people, to understanding is mainly understanding the why people started and what they do. And that's what we want to translate online. And ultimately, I also have my own why story to why I do what I do, and be able to connect with people who have their own individual stories, which really needs like a good presence online is ultimately amazing. And I think my community over the years has definitely grown, obviously online, as well as through that word of mouth content. But I think it's just cool. Like, I'm more about progression. Ultimately, I'm not about the numbers by any means. Like, I think that, again, is another thing in this world that we live in nowadays, which is a bit toxic, that we need X amount of likes on a video or photo to be successful. What's the definition of success anymore? And for me, you know, success isn't measured by the amount of views or likes or money in the bank. Like, success for me is measured by happiness and doing what you love for a living, and living more of a fulfilling life. And again, working with other communities and businesses and brands which are like-minded along that journey with me, like one for a winner from the very first time we meet, which I think is amazing. And again, with my community on the online side and in person, have grown me into the person who I am today. And it's just awesome. You know, just this week I had 4 inquiries of people that want to work with me, which is amazing. 2 from my old high school.
Wow.
And my old media teachers recommended them to me. And I didn't even know they were following me. Like, which has been how many years? Like 8 years since I left, or whatever.
Look at that.
Longer. So it's just really, again, with all my work and what anyone's work with online, I think you just never know who's watching. And I think it's really, really cool, like that message, and to hear from like a younger person who wants to work with me, who I guess admires the work that I built, the community that I built. For me, that's what it's all about. And I think we'll continue to be that. Again, as long as I'm living a happy, healthy life and doing what I love, then I think that's the definition for success for me. And I want to work with businesses and brands and people that align with that themselves. I think it's terribly important to always refer back to that community. And I say this to my clients as well, because they always kind of get brushed up into the day-to-day thing, running business, but actually how did you get here? And it's so important to keep connecting with that community. Otherwise, you'll lose yourself within it, and you may lose your audience and community too. You just got to be so careful. It's a fine balance. So again, for me, I wouldn't be here without them. It's not about the amount of followers or likes or whatever, views, whatever it may be. It's those individual people that connect with you, I think, is again the reason why I'm still going, I guess.
Yeah, and that's so powerful, and I resonate with that so much. It's kind of how my kind of people came to be, in that I think we see a lot of content from people that have, say, even podcasts. There are people on the podcast that had achieved a certain level of success, and that's so numbers driven. But what is success? And I really wanted to look at people driven by passion. And there's so many people, I think, just looking, even starting the podcast, looking around me and who is in my community, I was just humbled and overwhelmed to actually realize how many passionate people I know personally, and the incredible work they are doing to try to create positive change in the world. So I think that's so important, and a great reminder of to stay passionate in very much a number-driven world. I think you're absolutely right.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so important. And again, for anyone who's, from a business standpoint, everyone's starting a business or, kind of a little bit into that journey, I think it's so important to keep reminding yourself why you started it, and keep that at the forefront of your mind, no matter what is going on, whether it is being crazy successful or it's taking a little bit longer than you expected to. But that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun. And, if I could see myself this time last year, I've grown so much, and the previous year before that. And it's ultimately a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yes.
This world, or just in life in general. So never beat yourself up about it, because ultimately for me, just as a human, I've never been the age of 26 before.
No.
So if I beat myself up about something that I don't know about, every new day is an opportunity to grow. So again, the same in the business world. If your business is only a year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, you're 3 years into a business, which is amazing. You're a year into business, which is amazing. But you're always going to be learning and growing and adapting. And especially with COVID, you're pivoting like crazy.
Yes.
But that's part of the fun. That's part of the journey. And ultimately, no matter if it's starting a business or starting a new hobby or whatever it may be, you just got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. And, ultimately that's the driver to where that'll help you get over those difficult times and connect with new people, build your community further, and have a more fulfilling life, I guess. And that's how I live my life. So I think it's, I feel like it's served me great, So I think it's just so important. I just utter it to everyone that I meet, whether one of my best friends or a new acquaintance or whatever it may be. It's just make sure you're doing, life's so short now. It's just just do what you love. Just start it. Just start getting those cogs and motions to be able to either, if you want to start a business, you want to start a clothing line or whatever it may be, just start that motion in the background to where you can make that comfortable transition. And if you're not happy in your job, ultimately, I'd just say change it. Do something about it. Stop complaining about it. Just do something. It's a simple message, but I find now, because of social media, people feel highly judged or very self-conscious, and
perfectionism, isn't there?
Most definitely. And actually, you find quite quickly, especially with the world of social media, who your community and close circle is, who's going to bring you up no matter what the situation. So I think, it's just so important just to follow your heart in a world filled with so much opportunity. Like there's never been so much opportunity in the world now. If you want to start your business, if you wanted to, learn Mandarin or whatever it may be online, like we're at our fingertips. You can literally do anything you want to. So it's just about applying yourself and remaining positive, and even during the downtimes, then ultimately just to surround yourself with those right people to help you grow.
You're right. And I think with the journey is part of where the joy is found, and all of that experience. Like every year brings new experience. I always like to call my birthday level up day. Nice. I think a lot of people worry about aging, but I'm actually like, each year it gets better. It's another opportunity. Instead of looking, I'm older, I look at, I'm leveling up.
Yeah.
What have I learned from the past year? And I've got a brand new year to use that experience to the best of my ability, really, and to benefit me. So I loved what you said there. Like, you're only 26 once, right? You've never done it before. Yeah. So we're all learning.
Most definitely.
And you certainly have been learning and been on this journey, because when I first met you 5 years ago now, it was just you and your camera. And now you have a whole team behind you. So as the founder of RLW Film, what is your responsibility within your company, and how have you tried to lead? What values have you looked for when building your team?
Ultimately, I think with the way I operate the business as a founder, the way we're operating at the moment, everyone who I work with is on a freelance basis. Essentially, that I found that way that, as a business to scale and grow, kind of keep my overheads down from a business boring technical standpoint, that actually allows me to connect with the people that I really, really want to work with, and ultimately build a team around me who's invested in the brand and the vision and where I want to go with it and who I want to work with, who are amazing individuals in their own right. Because I found that keeping them at close arm's length within the business, I can fully rely upon these people. So I don't ultimately have to be at every single shoot. I don't have to be editing every single project. Even though as much as I love to be at every single shoot, single project, for me, where I want to go with the business, that's not possible. And for me, I've worked with a number of different people over my time, and kind of, had good experiences and bad experiences, but that's all part of the process of finding that strong team, again, community network, people that I can rely upon, who are fully involved and care about me as an individual as well, and not just after a paycheck, to help the business and brand values grow. And when I first started way back when, it was just me and the camera. Like, I would never have thought, now that this is where it's at, scaling the business in a whole new brand and everything else. So I think for me that the values and ethos that I hold are very close to who I am as a person. And I want to keep people within the team and the network who align with that. And ultimately, it's just being good people and have a passion for what you do. So with my team, I have a lot of people who are very specialists in their field, and they have their own journey that they're going on with themselves. And I fully respect that. So jumping back to like the FPV drone pilots that we got on board, like, I'm not going to spend the time or money to learn such a precise, specific skill, which will take thousands of man hours to get to the level of the operation. I'd rather have people within my team who are just crazy about it and amazing at it. And I'd rather keep them close and help build the brand up with them, give them more work, and they can bring it back to us too. So I think it's all about, surrounding yourself with those people that just, and what I found with these people who are within the team, they're so individual and hold their own, and they're so passionate. And I think the thing about the creative world, it's you're doing it for the passion, like you're not doing it for the paycheck at all. Like, and that's the thing, and that's why it's so, from a business standpoint, maybe when you first start out, a lot of people take advantage of that because they think, oh, well, you're doing it as a hobby, or you're creative, you make films, you take photos. It's not, but I think that's what's the most fun about it, because I have people in my team and continue to add people to that roster who are just like so passionate, whether I'm talking to them over a drink about business or their own journey, or when we're on set. And this is why I film everything behind the scenes on all of our projects, because when I would like to see my progression, but also it's awesome to see like the individuals involved and the look and feel of the business as we grow. And yeah, as I said, you have bad experiences with people over the years in terms of, knowing not to work with them anymore, but then you keep on to like the diamonds in the rough, I guess, in that sense. And again, having people on my team who are just so crazy passionate about what they do, like, then that really reflects in all the work that we produce. And, ultimately we have amazing fun, which, for me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wasn't having fun with it, nor if it wasn't making me happy. So for me, as a leader of that business, as long as I'm enjoying it and having fun along the process, I want everyone else who's involved in that journey, whether that's in the team. And as we grow, obviously we'll be hiring people, or the clients that we work with. Ultimately, it's a flipping fun process. So like, I think, having people, again, community that are close to you who are passionate about what they do in their own right, whether they are an FPV drone pilot or an automotive specialist photographer, like, I want them to stick to their lane and make sure that they're happy with what they're doing, and giving them responsibility to fulfill for the project that we need to do. And it's not like a babysitting opportunity. It's like, I fully trust you and what you're capable of. So I just, give them that creative freedom. And I think for me, again, when businesses come to us and give us creative freedom because they've seen some work that we've done, and that's how we've grown in the camp world with the Canyon Creek work, that everyone said, like, we've seen all the work they've done, like, it's bloody amazing in the camp world. Mm-hmm. How can you do that for us? And like, I love that. When people refer to different segments of work that we produce, whether it's in our showreel or seeing other products, like, well, how can you do that for us? I'm like, that's when like the flames ignite. Yes. And I bring the people on, I bring the ultimately the best team for them together to be able to create that, and then to deliver them the finished product. That's a pretty cool feeling. So for me, as long as we're still creating those cool feelings of energy and fun and enthusiasm and authenticity for our work and the people that we work with, not only on the team but the clients, then ultimately that's how I see about the business growing and how I'm going to grow as an individual as well.
For sure. And I think you have such a talent at that, at being able to see the value in other people and how they can best be of service. You're really good at that. And one of the things I value so much about your leadership is your willingness to teach others and share your passion. I've witnessed this on a shoot with you at Canyon Creek, where you've generously handed your very expensive camera to young campers so they can be curious about its functions, and you've taught them how it works. And I can personally say the joy on their faces is priceless. Well, as long as they don't drop the very expensive camera, I guess. Yeah. But I've also witnessed this on your social media platforms. You touched on it just now, but where you have dedicated a lot of your time and energy to create behind the scenes content, to teach other aspiring videographers on how the shooting process has worked. And I think you're such a brilliant mentor, and your passion for film is contagious, really. I'm not even into film, and it's hard not to get caught up in your passion for it. And I think it's both an important and inspiring trait to have as a leader. Do you think you've consciously tried to be an active mentor for others?
It's a good question. I think if I wasn't doing film, I would be a teacher. Ultimately, part of my degree at university, I did 3 months learning how to be a teacher.
Did you?
And ultimately, when I first started, I was a counsellor. Yeah. So looking after 24/7 pastoral care for kids for the whole summer. And that feeling of like giving back is like so important to me. Like, again, this is why I ensure to bring people along to document everything we do on the behind the scenes of our work. One is an opportunity to showcase what we're doing, obviously, within our business, and it ultimately gives me a timestamp of progression to see that where we're going and what we're doing. But it opens up, people don't realize, an opportunity for younger people who don't really necessarily get opportunities like this in every day to come onto a set, small or big, to get that experience, which ultimately experiences grow people. So you'll probably notice half the time, there's some elements of me self-shooting in the car and, things like that, but they're filming us creating the product. So I give them free rein. So there's an opportunity for younger people to come in and, as I say, come on, big sets with a lot of crew member on big products, which, ultimately I know for myself, there's individuals when I first started, when I was very, very young, going on to film sets, not huge by any means, but enough to give me that inspiration to know that that's what I want to do when I have more experience and have the budget to be able to allow to do it, and give people those experiences, which ultimately I know there's moments in my career, my journey, which again, jumping back to the people that have just enabled me to be like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to give that moment back. And I think, again, jumping back to camp, and it's an amazing opportunity where I get asked the same questions day in, day out. How does that camera? How does that work? What does this thing do?
Can I fly the drone?
Can I fly the drone? All that fun stuff. But ultimately, that, being that young, you're so inquisitive and you're curious. And for me to be able to give that opportunity to campers and younger individuals who want to step into this world, I think is awesome. Like, there's a couple campers that, and I speaking to the directors of Canyon Creek on an ongoing basis, and before I get to sessions at camp, because we usually arrive in like the middle of the summer, with like the peak of summer, everyone's asking like, when's Ranald getting here? Is he coming this session? Is he filming this session? And year after year, obviously, I've engraved myself within that community. A lot of people know who I am, and similar in other communities that I'm working within at the moment. But to have that feeling of people get excited to like work with us, whether, I'm working with the youngest boys cabin at camp, or working with a bunch of adults who own a clothing brand, to kind of have that sort of similar excitement and make it like an educational experience. Even like with clients that we work now who are not campers or young people always ask questions about, how we do things. I always love to educate where I can, because I think, again, our world that we're in, it's a sense of giving people that opportunity to learn. And again, I would have been a teacher if I wasn't doing what I'm doing. So yeah, there's always part of me that always wants to give back, to give that inspiration, whether it's young or old or whatever it may be. I think giving people value, whether it's, in business or work, or just giving value in life in general, I think for me it's like so important, because you just never know that impact that you have on people.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really intriguing. And ultimately, that's happened to me in the past, where people giving me value and giving me their time. Time's a precious thing, but at the same time, we've got enough time to help other people where we can. So if I can inspire, a young camper to then ultimately want to get into filmmaking because of those session films that we've made, or that interaction, I've taken more time with them because I know they're inquisitive, or ask them to come help film like documentaries because they're just really interested in the process. And similarly with people coming out of university or college or sixth form, then that's really cool. And I always find the time to give back in that side of it wherever I can. I'm always happy to answer questions for people that are inquisitive, because ultimately that's how I got here myself. So I know if I was in their position, I'd probably be nervous to ask, but it's just by being warm and welcoming and letting them feel like it's okay to ask questions. Like, I think it's so important to give back, no matter what stage in your career or your business that you're in.
Definitely. And I know you're so genuine in that response, because I've seen it, and you do genuinely care so much. And I think the more passionate we are as people, the more intriguing people find that, right? Because when you're passionate, you're joyful. Usually it creates joy, and people are like, I want some of that. What's he got? And they want to be more inquisitive. And I guess it's beautiful, really, because it seems, especially with the campers, it seems almost like a full circle moment of you with your granddad and the VCR recorder, and then getting to give another kid that experience is really, really beautiful. Amazing. And as we're discussing mentorship and learning, what have been some of the biggest things you've learned whilst growing your platform?
God, so many things. I think, from a business standpoint, I guess in a weird hustle term environment, is like always try not to be complacent and comfortable. I think, the current times have taught everyone that, tomorrow isn't guaranteed in terms of life and business or whatever it may be. So for me, that's always kind of been like, for me to help me grow and keep me motivated, not only with the community that's surrounding me, but that self-belief in myself that, I need to be the driving force to be able to get to where I want to be ultimately. And I think, again, in the world that we are in now, it's so difficult to know what's around the corner. So I think just to kind of keep that self-motivation, self-belief, and doing things to help me kind of to do that, get into my daily routines, whether it's like going for a morning walk at 6 a.m. just to kind of listen to some podcasts, listen to music, whatever it may be, some motivational speakers, or, anything that would just kind of open my mind a little bit more and learn and educate myself and never be complacent in that we're always growing and always learning, and, giving myself that self-reflection time, as I mentioned before, like an hour or two every single day to do whatever the heck I want. Like, that's going to help me grow, even if I don't realize it.
Yeah.
And taking time to learn and educate from others, even if they're not even the filmmaking field. I think for me, just in business podcasts or just general podcasts, or just, picking up the phone and calling people and just interacting, I think educating and growing yourself, whether it's not, having to go to university to get a piece of paper that says you've learned and grown in that sense. I think it's taking the time to just kind of like, again, invest your time and opportunity into 2-3 hour long podcasts. May only take like a 1 minute snippet of that, and that really resonates with you. But I think finding the time to explore and discover, try new things, to help educate yourself is so important. So I'm never kind of complacent in that, and always like a gentle reminder that I just need to, as much sometimes I don't want to do it for whatever reason, that I should be doing it, and it's going to help me kind of get out of rut or find. And I think for me, in my world, film is all about inspiration. It's all about creativity. It's all about trying new things. And I get inspired by so many other filmmakers, photographers, creatives in general, that is an educational learning experience for me. And I almost see my life in film sometimes, like, if I see scenarios of people in real life, I was like, well, this could be quite cool. We did this, did that here, and film that from up there. That'll be the opener and all the rest of it. Cool. But it just, inspiring and educate myself through other people, taking the time to go and speak to people from other sectors and are doing cool things on the right, and just learning from people. Like, always educate yourself. Just kind of keep it up, really, because ultimately that's how you grow, and that's how you grow as a business, grow as a person.
Yeah, and on the topic of learning, I'm really intrigued by something in terms of shooting. So you shoot with such a diverse range of clients, and all from different industries and venues. And I can imagine that must involve a lot of planning before you go to shoot, as there's lots of technical elements involved. How do you find a balance between being prepared for a shoot, yet still being present enough whilst filming to capture any moments that kind of authentically arise? That question came up because I was watching your work you filmed with Sarah Cox in 2017, I think it was, at the Coco nightclub. And I just thought, goodness me, there must have been so much to contend with at a venue like that, like the lighting, the noise, physically with so many people in such a small space. This was obviously 2017, pre-2020. And then all of a sudden this confetti is falling. Do you have to know in advance things like the confetti falling, which could be difficult to shoot? So what's the balance between pre-planning and being in the moment?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think filming events and especially music events like that, when I very first started, I did a lot of nightclub work. To kind of get myself off the ground running to film that sort of environment, because I think events, whether it's festivals, concerts, whether it's camp and all that sort of stuff, there's always elements of pre-planned elements which you need to be notified about. So at that specific Sarah Cox event, we had constant communication with the tech guys. We had earpieces on, knowing exactly when they're going to be doing things, because ultimately for them as well, things change all the time, like through the night, whether, from a safety aspect, if somebody goes in front of one of these cannons for whatever reason, because they're in the moment, they're singing the guest appearance and not even the main act, then they can't fire it off. So then we have to adapt our scenarios to think, okay, well, we need to be at this point in a festival set or concert set at this one time, but that may not happen and things may change. So especially with a venue like that at Camden, it's like to get around, you're going underground and then you're going up through the canopy and around. Like, you get such a workout going in the crowds. Like, and I think it's just, you plan for everything you can plan for. Because obviously there's key moments in a music set which you need to capture because it's specific to an artist or it's something big that they always do. So those things you just have to stick to your guns and hold it out if it's in this specific time frame. You just got to hold out until it actually happens, and unless they say it's not happening. And all the authentic moments, I kind of sometimes just instead of continuously looking down the lens to try and find that moment, I just kind of put the camera down and just look around and just see people's interactions and pick out groups of people in a crowd that I'm just thinking, okay, they're having fun. And I communicate with them before even sometimes I start filming with them. Like, have fun with them. If they're like filming me, filming them, I'll get my phone out and like just have them film with them. So make them feel comfortable and enjoy the moment with them, which I think is really important because, again, whether it's festivals, whether it's music events, whether it's places like camp where that actuality, authentic moments happen, I think being engaged in that moment yourself is so important because then you get a feeling for what they're feeling and experiencing. And then those natural moments then come to kind of capture that. Whether that's, again, and it boils down to me as a person because I like having fun, I like enjoying myself. Obviously not getting carried away in a professional setting, but in the sense of like, especially again, like festivals and events where people are letting loose, having fun, and living in a moment. If you live in that moment yourself as a creative, actually you connect within a different way. And yes, it's bleeding tiring. Like filming festivals, for example, is like 12-hour days for 3 days on the trot.
Yeah.
Energy drinks to your friend, coffees to your friend. But when when I've been on stage with like the biggest artists in the world, and you're capturing specific moments, I'm just like, this is pretty cool. Like this is like, no matter how tired I am, and capturing that moment, which will then serve as a timestamp for that artist or for organization, which is so important to them. And that's what keeps me kind of going with it. But ultimately, it's just, there are elements of like pre-planned events and sections in events or whatever it may be. But that again is always subject to change. But I think it's just ensuring that you're always, again, going back to the bare basic of it, aligning and going back to the why behind for what that client wants, so for what you want to achieve out of it, and that will help. Those moments will come naturally. Obviously, there's elements of pre-planned stuff too.
Yeah,
but it's a fine balance, really.
For sure. And like you said, you've worked with some really big artists who I guess are used to being in the spotlight. But for many people, being in front of a camera is actually incredibly daunting and something they might not have had much experience with before. And what I found so striking and authentic about your work, we touched on it earlier, was how often you manage to get the founders themselves in front of the camera. How do you create that ease with your clients? How do you manage to try and connect with your community like that?
Ultimately, treat them like a human being. Like, no matter, for me, filming, some of the biggest artists in the world or influencers who have the biggest followings and they're getting idolized 24/7, then I talk to them like a normal person. Everyone's human. And that's what I do with, every organization, every founder, every director, every employee, every, user of a service or whatever it may be. Treat them like that they would want to be treated, and like a human, and have just like an authentic, real connection with them to make them feel comfortable. Ultimately, when the cameras turn on, it's never a case of like, as soon as we meet them, turn the cameras on and force a bunch of questions to try and get the right answers out of them. It's never ever like that. And I think part of our process, getting to know them, is never like an immediate shoot. It is a process that we go through to make them feel comfortable. And ultimately people get nerves on set, on camera, and that happens. Like, it's not a natural thing. And I get it when turning the camera on myself, and I can shoot behind it, and I know how to get myself out of it. But ultimately, with that sort of stuff, we kind of coach people through. There's techniques that we can use to kind of make people feel comfortable. You don't have to talk down the barrel of the lens. You can talk to people and take snippets from those conversations to still make the story that you want to create. So I think it's ultimately just to get to work with those people, is just, again, treat them like human beings. It's so simple, but it's kind of treat everyone equally, and just be open and honest with them, and just make them feel comfortable enough to feel like we can just. It's almost why I say to a lot of people is like, if they're starting to feel uncomfortable with or not very confident at the beginning with an interview, whatever it may be, just like, all right, we're down the pub right now, or whatever, just like, let's have a conversation. And we never like do statement questioning in our work. It's all prompt questioning. So it is all conversational based, and they're all talking to a person. They're never straight down the barrel lens making a statement, because it's very different. And when it comes to storytelling and working with people from all around the world, it's like, sticking a camera in their face is never going to be a comfortable thing. So making that process as easy and comfortable as possible is, for me, is just making it a conversation, and that works. And that's how those, if it's an hour-long interview and there's a really extremely raw moment which lasts a minute, which you wouldn't have got if you did it another way, straight to camera, then, and even if we don't use that other 59 minutes, we've got that authentic moment which actually sums up the whole narrative or what you're trying to achieve. And it's just, again, just make them feel comfortable and treat them like a human being. Ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that empathy is so important. And I'm so glad I got to have you on the podcast. I hope you've realised by now how much of a huge fan I am of your work, and I'm continuously moved by your authenticity. And I would love for more people to see and experience your visual storytelling. So how can they do this? Where can they find you? We'll also put it in the show notes.
Awesome. So if you listen to the whole podcast, we are changing the business, but for the time being, everything on all social medias is at RLW Film, www.rlwfilm.com, Instagram at RLW Film, Facebook the same. But I guess we can update the show notes whether we made that business transition at that point, and we can update the Feel Good Film stuff, but at the time being, it's RLW Film.
Absolutely. And is there anything you'd like to leave us with? Any upcoming events or projects we should look out for, or even any words of advice that have served you well that you would like to finish on?
Yeah, well, ultimately for projects, we've always got something in the pipeline. We're always working a lot of different things, a lot of different clients, but we're at the moment with the new business transition, that's obviously taking up a lot of our time. But with that being said, we're actually putting together, and again, this boils down back to the why. What we do is that always continuing to creating our own personal projects, which aren't money driven, which aren't client driven, which aren't business driven, and still connecting with organizations which are doing amazing things. But whether they're startups or charities, whatever it may be, we have no budget whatsoever. We're still wanting to push that every single year to create a handful of projects which are offering back, and we're doing, again, reconnecting down to the personal passion of what we're doing. But with new business transition, that's probably like the big thing for us, the Feel Good Films.
Keeping my eyes out.
There's one quote from Simon Sinek always sticks with me. It's like, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And ultimately, again, for me, it's boiling down to the why I do what I do every day, why I get up every morning, why I work as hard as I do to kind of create these stories and work with those businesses and organizations all year round, is figuring out that why you do what you do. And we translate that for our clients online and creating like an emotive storyline. But again, for me and for anyone listening, it's ultimately just reminding yourself why you do what you do, or why you want to do what you do going forward, because people ultimately buy from people, and you have to be authentic, and people will easily see that if you're not. So I think, that's what I'll leave people with.
Oh, such good advice. Such good advice. Ranald, it's been such a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom and your positive energy. Thank you for the stories that you continue to tell. And thank you so much for being my kind of person.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.